Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kira, and today I am so excited. I did an incredible podcast, and I just thought it'd be fun for you guys to hear it, to listen to it. And as always, thanks for listening. I'll catch you next time on the Dental Team podcast.
Welcome to the Dentelligencia podcast. I'm Nick Zager, and we have Remy Isdaner, my partner, and we are Mirlo Real Estate Partners. Today we have a special guest, Kira Dent, from the Dental A Team. Welcome, Kira.
Thanks, guys. I'm super excited to be here. I love what you guys are doing. I'm just jazzed. And I'm glad that I didn't have to say the name of your podcast because I would have totally botched that. So thank you for taking that on for me. I love what you guys are doing. And I'm just super, super excited to be here. I love geeking about dentistry and business and all things. So thank you, guys. I'm really honored to be here.
We appreciate that. And, our favorite clients are typically early to mid-career dentists, and we love what you do to support our mutual clients and really want to know a little bit more about you and why you do what you do. How did you get into this?
Yeah, for sure. Well, luckily for both of us, we love the same type of clients, so it's really fun. I actually started my career in dentistry in high school. I was offered an opportunity to either go into nursing or dentistry, and I thought, I want to wear scrubs. Like that was my end goal. And I thought, learn the whole body or learn the mouth. I'm surely going dental route. So that was honest to goodness the reason why I got into dentistry. I was a dental assistant for years and then became office manager, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, you name it. I have not been a hygienist and I'm not a dentist, but my husband, he went to pharmacy school at Midwestern Arizona. And during that time, I'm a little hustler. I found out if I could work at the college, I'd get a discount on his tuition. And so I knew there was a dental college. And so I found out, got a job at the dental college. And I was super blessed, super fortunate. And I worked there for 3 years with dental students. And one of the students asked me while we were in school, she said, "Hey, Kira, do you want to come help me open my practice in Colorado?" And I was like, heck yeah, dental assistant to practice owner. Like, this is a great plan. I never knew how I'd be able to do this. I'm not a dentist. And I'm like, I see what you guys do in dental school. Yes, I want to say yes to this. So I went and helped her open a practice in Colorado, and we took our office from 500,000 to 2.4 million in 9 months and opened our second location. And what I found from that was I learned a lot. We built a pretty big group of practices, and I learned so much from that of what not to do. My marriage was about in shambles. Her marriage was about in shambles. My health was deteriorating. I was working from 2 a.m. till 10 p.m. trying to make these practices grow. And I thought, well, shoot, one, if I could help her grow a practice, I wonder all my other students that I loved, could I help them grow their practices and give them the confidence as well? And two, there's got to be a better way to do this than what I've been doing and what she's been doing. Like, yes, we have success on paper, but behind the scenes, we're deteriorating as human beings. And so that's really what spurred my passion. I never worked with a consulting company. Everything that Dental A Team's consulting are things that I wish I would have had when I was a practice owner, things that I wish I would have known, things to help all of my dental students. It's fun because it's becoming full circle. A lot of those students are now buying practices and coming and working with me, which is super fun. But really the passion comes from how can I help these dentists live their best lives, get the profitability they want, but also get their team bought in, because most consulting companies work with just the dentist or just the team. And I thought, but if I can get the team on board, these dentists' lives become a lot easier. And so it's really fun to talk about both sides of the coin. And shoot, my last name's Dent, so I think I was destined for this career path. It's not a stage name. It's just the third fiance finally. Like, I didn't get married. I just took 3 fiancés to get a better last name. So that's kind of my story and how I got into it, and truly just love this industry and love helping dentists flourish and succeed and help more people.
But nursing never had a chance.
It didn't.
Like. Yeah.
I mean, the scrubs, if they would have had cuter scrubs, then maybe. But the fact that I had the short path in just the mouth, but it's funny, I don't even get to wear scrubs anymore. I'm like, man, that was a short-lived moment. But yeah, nursing, I don't think I could do like rectal trumpets. That's just like, I mean, I'll take the mouth all day long versus that. Like, I don't think I could. I have such a gag reflex. I don't think I could honestly do it.
Well, talk to us about some of your favorite client stories.
Oh gosh. So knowing that like the startup to the mid-range are kind of the ideal clients, I was thinking of a couple and one comes to mind. He attended one of our summits. We have one in April every year for doctors and teams. And so he attended it. And I remember he had like a really funny name on his screen because I see all the participants. I really try to make our summits really engaging and active. And I remember it was iPhone. And so I just kept calling this person out. I was like, hey, iPhone, how you doing over there? And I just kept kind of like razzing. I have no clue. There's no camera on. It just says iPhone. And lo and behold, iPhone decides to sign up with us. And he had just bought his practice and paid in full for consulting, which I was always like, man, that's a pretty like gutsy move. You just bought a practice. But I also like people that are gutsy and this committed to it. And what was interesting is we'll call him iPhone. If he listens to this, he'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But over the course, it's been about 2 years now, iPhone has gone from being a practice owner who literally knew nothing about ownership, had a pretty seasoned team when they bought their practice, and went through all these hard transitions. Like I'm telling you, this was a labor of love on both sides, the consulting side and his side, from needing to transition out his office manager, who was really, really causing a lot of like shakes within the practice and driving the team in a direction he didn't want to go. So learning how to hire, learning how to lead, learning how to present treatment plans, learning how to put KPIs into the practice. Like you want to talk about a jump start to business ownership. And I remember he's like, Kira, I'm not even taking home a paycheck. And those moments always rock me because this is real life for a lot of dentists. And my goal is to help them get to taking home their paychecks quickly. And so about 6 months, he was taking a little bit, but we started like at 6 months, he was able to take his full paycheck. And then fast forward to, I just saw him actually last weekend and he was sharing that now he's producing over 250,000 a month in his practice, collecting
Wow.
home a paycheck, has a new office manager that was sitting next to him. They've shifted the culture. This office manager said that this doctor like makes her feel seen, heard, and appreciated. He understands his KPIs. He's got a profitability margin of 60%, which makes me so proud. So his overhead 60%, it's a profit margin of 40%. He knows his numbers. He knows how to look at it, getting ready to possibly expand his practice. But he said, we were just meeting last week and he said, Kira, I want to give back because Dental A Team's given me so much. And so having him help coach other practices now of things that he's learned really just inspires me. But I think about this man of like the rocky road he went on to get there. And I think that his journey is not unique. I think this is so common for so many owners who buy practices 2, 3, 4 years in. But to be able to have him be an example of what can happen and for him to be going from about 150,000 when he first bought the practice to now doing 250,000 a month, just to give him the confidence, I think, as a leader, as a dentist, to get a team bought in and on board, the fact that he knew his numbers and it'll be 2 years in April since he bought his practice and joined. And I think that is one of my most favorite stories because to see him excited about life, to see him excited about his practice when there were some dark days. I remember like his name, we'll just say iPhone was on our schedule a lot of times to give more support and to review resumes and to teach him how to hire for culture and to build a culture. That is a magical experience. And there's, like I said, so many things from KPIs to numbers to culture to hiring to diagnosing and getting patients to accept you when the other dentist was still a part of the practice and moving on. He's honestly one of my favorite clients because I think his story is so relatable to how so many other people feel. And to see him now on the other side of it, truly beaming, I think is honestly one of my favorite stories. I have so many favorite stories, but I think he's a really recent telling one that is just a fun success story to share with people.
That's super
But
cool. And he's got a great name.
I know, right? iPhone. I'm like, it's easy because I was like, who is this? Who shows up? Like, I hate it on meetings. Like, get your name of who you really are because I want to call you. There's another, she's now a client. And I was speaking in person and, front row, I was like, hey, what's your name? And she's like, I'm going to be anonymous. So we have a running joke now that she's just anonymous, even though she's a client now. And she's like, I'm so glad. But now she's like secretly optimistic anonymous. So, we've kind of changed that around, but yeah, it's fun to have clients show their personalities. But yeah, if you're on an event, put your dang name on there. Otherwise, maybe you'll be iPhone forever.
Fair enough. Well, I'd rather be iPhone than anonymous, but but point taken. I've got a serious question for you based on that great story. But first, I'm gonna joke.
I'm
So
ready.
it's on record in our company. There's a iPhone Samsung battle,
I'm
and I'm
ready.
on the iPhone side and Nick's on the other side. And we have it on record here on this podcast that Nick said something to the effect of, "That sounds awesome, being iPhone," or "iPhones are awesome." So just want to make sure that we're all on the same page there.
Remy, I'm happy
I
to
agree
hear
with
that
you,
because
Nick.
in our company, it's the same. It's like Apple versus HP. I'm diehard Apple. Everything connects in so seamlessly. So, Remy, we're on the same. Yep, iPhone over here. It's definitely for the Samsung. I'm sick of the green bubbles, but they are getting better. Now I can see that you're writing. I can see that it's been red. So, I mean, hey, they are making some progress, but that's
Yeah,
been like, decades in the making for
we're speaking
iPhone.
the same language, Kira. No question about it. Um, okay, as promised, I'd start with jokes, and then that was a great success story, and it's your passion is clear. Um, let's talk about those KPIs. So, what are some of the KPIs that are that young dentists, newer dentists should be looking for? Because I asked that question, and then also add a preface. We talk to doctors all the time who have no. It's clear they have no. Um, Connection to what the business side of dentistry is doing in their own practice. And I get it. We get it. That they didn't set out to run a business necessarily. They set out to provide the best oral health to their community. But it is a business after all. And so how what are some of the things that those young dentists should be looking for?
Remy, I'm so grateful you asked this question. It was not pre-planned. My passion came actually from teaching people how to run successful businesses because as a business owner myself, profits seemed elusive. I remember like, what the
Hmm.
heck is a freaking KPI? I didn't even know what that meant. And I really love in Dental Team, there's no judgment. And I just want people to feel safe and confident to ask those questions. And I think dentists really feel this need to know everything because you are a doctor. And I just want to highlight that guess what? None of them know it. Like 99% of dentists that we work with don't understand the business, but yet understanding the business and the numbers, I feel is like your treasure map to success. It helps you see where are broken systems in your practice to fix. So rather than just trying to pump a bunch of systems, let's look at the numbers to see which system we really can impact. Also, when you know your numbers, you can make smarter decisions of who to hire, when to hire, things like that. And so, for people who don't understand KPIs, like I said, someone told me that I was the Dr. Seuss of systems. So I take that as a huge compliment to try and make it so
Sure.
simple for people. I believe KPIs are like the vitals of your practice. It's like when you go to the doctor, they always check your like height, weight, your blood pressure, your temperature. They're going to check those things because if any of those things are out of whack, we're going to have like an immediate plan. And I feel like that's similar to KPIs within a practice. And KPIs can get a little extensive. So if we're talking about a brand new practice, I start small and then we get bigger. And so like main things that are really going to give you a nice suck on your business, if you're not careful, are going to be your cash flow. So that's going to be your overhead. I'm watching your production and your collections because oftentimes the practice is producing enough, but your team's not collecting that money. So we want to make sure we have a 98% collections ratio. I'm also going to watch your AR. So AR is your accounts receivable, checking from patient portion and insurance portion, because a lot of times practices actually have the money in their practice, but they're not collecting. It's just kind of sitting there in overdue payments that are due to you, whether that's from patient or insurance. If we can look at those, we can figure out where's our collection problem. Is it we don't have clean claims sending to insurance, or we're not collecting from patients and we're sending statements, or we're not even calling. So I'm really going to watch those super, super tight. And then if you want to, you can go, excuse me, further down the line. And things that I'll watch are going to be like your lab costs, your supply costs. Marketing can come into place. Scheduling, we can look at your scheduling and see like number of new patients coming in. That's a big one that I really like to watch because if we're not getting enough new patients, or on the flip side, we're attritioning, aka we're not keeping them in for recare and reappointment percentages, we can get a leaky bucket and just keep filling with new patients, but not retaining the ones that we have. So I like to watch your attrition rate. I also like to look at your case acceptance. So what are you diagnosing and what's being accepted to see, is it a diagnosis problem or is it an acceptance problem? whatever doctors want to make, there is a study and a standard of 3 times what you want to produce is what you need to be diagnosing. So if you're not watching this diagnosis amount, you might not be diagnosing enough to be able to get what you want on your schedule for your production. So I like to watch that. And I like to watch your case acceptance of dollar for dollar. So if you're presenting a $1,000 treatment plan, how much of that 1,000 is actually being accepted? Are we accepting 100% of that? Are we accepting 50% of that? And then asking questions of why, because case acceptance is usually 1 or 2 words from our exam to our treatment coordinator. And then I like to watch your hygiene percentages. So what's your hygienist producing per hour? I like 3 times pay for PPO practices, and I like 4 times pay for fee-for-service practices. And that's on adjusted production. So let's not go off of gross. Let's go off of adjusted. Gross feeds the ego, net feeds the family. So let's not be feeding our egos. I know it feels really good to say you're producing 260, but if you can only collect 150 of that, let's live in real life world. So those would be some zones. And then again, if you want to go next level, you're already doing that. Some things we found over the last year of tracking hundreds of offices were open time in a schedule, and your dollar per hour of production, because a lot of times just open time in schedules, we found you could actually hit your goal if we could fill those spaces, and then figuring out protocols for your team just to keep that schedule full. So I said a lot of KPIs for you, but really your main ones you've got to be watching are production, collection, overhead, new patients, and case acceptance. If I could only pick 5, those would be my top 5 that I would start with. And I'm going to give 6, your reappointment percentages, because if we're not reappointing, that's really going to kick you down later on, and it's going to make a lot more work for you. And I think those are some pretty easy ones to watch pretty quickly, but then also hopefully giving a lot of other ones for you to be able to watch in addition to that, depending upon where you are in the journey of your practice, things to be looking at. And doctors, you don't have to track all this. You get your team to track this for you. And then you get this lovely report that comes to your desk every week or every month. You review it, you assess it, and then you make the changes accordingly.
How do you help the practices that you're working with refine their systems to streamline their workflows to ultimately maximize their productivity?
So Nick, on that, I'm just going to sound like a broken record. I literally look at their numbers because whatever their numbers are looking at, these KPIs, that's going to tell us where the system's broken in addition to what your team is saying is a problem. So usually it's communication, or it's low case acceptance, or overhead, or cash flow issues. And so what we're going to do from there is we're going to look to see what is the system in place. So if we're having an overhead issue and cash flow issue, well, I'm going to look at the billing system. Let's look there, because that's where the money's at. So let's figure out what is our process, who's doing what, and where is the breakdown. And then we're going to refine the system. I don't believe teams like to do hard things, and I don't like to do hard things. And so everything we implement should be easy, because teams will gravitate towards ease and also not making someone remember things. So that's a true system. So we'll put in things we can put automated notes, or we can change our note templates if we're consistently missing something on our claims. We're going to fix and adjust that system. We're also going to look to see running certain reports that we put on an automated system for them. It's on a sheet for them. That way they don't have to remember to do this. We create handoffs where it's on their route slip, so no one has to remember, just with your memory, it's already built as a true system. And I think a lot about McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or some of these companies that are able to mass produce and give you the same experience wherever you go. Well, let's build that and let's make a very simple system that everybody can follow, rather than hoping and praying our team members remember and they don't drop the ball. So I'm going to look at those numbers. I'm going to look to see where the gap is, and then dig deeper to find root problem, and then add an automatic system as much as we can to fix that problem forever.
Are you dealing, how much of your business are startups, scratch startups, versus acquisitions, also new practice owners through acquisition, versus, I guess that's the question, those two paths.
So I tend, and I think it's just due to who I am and the things I did, I tend to attract more acquisitions in our company. So we're probably 75% acquisitions, 25% scratch start. We've worked with a lot of scratch starts. We've done a lot of pieces with scratch starts. But for me, I'm of the opinion, It's already there. My job is just to come and be the Miracle Grow on a practice that's already there. I know that I can successfully add hundreds of thousands to a practice very quickly, adjust their overhead and make them profitable within just a couple of months. Scratch starts, we can do the same thing, but there is more of building that base to get more people in, to build it. However, you don't buy someone else's problems when you do a scratch start. So in Dentally Team, again, I think it's due to my experience, the things I've done. Like I said, I took a practice from 500,000 to 2.4 million in 9 months. I know which systems to quickly shift and adjust. I like to say that we're a Miracle Grow for practices. You just sprinkle us on and we watch it bloom. Scratch starts, like I said, usually I'm about 6 months to a year before we're going to start to see that churn and burn. And it's just due to building that patient base, which doesn't exist in a scratch start typically. But again, we've had several scratch starts. We've had several be very successful. But that would be the reason I think why. But again, I don't shy away from scratch starts. I've done plenty of scratch starts, and I do love that you get to build everything that you want. And it's brand new. You get to set the systems up from day one. I just think I like to. It's already in place, and now my job's just to optimize and magnify it and make it even stronger for them very quickly. But I'm a fast results person. I like to see results quickly. Scratch starts long-term have amazing results. Short-term, they're a little bit harder to get that churn on.
Sure. Are dentists typically onboarding you during the acquisition process? So you're already known to them, and they're acquiring with you on board versus an acquisition where things don't feel right and they're not turning out the way the doctor planned or not as fast as they had hoped, and then they're onboarding.
So I think the doctors who do the best are the ones who bring us on usually month 1 or 2 before they open a practice. And I always say when you open a practice, it's like having a baby. People nest the 2 months before they have the baby, and then baby comes and it's like screaming mayhem for about 6 months until you figure this out. And I really do believe that that's how practice ownership is. So the offices who I found do really, really, really well are the ones who bring us in 1 to 2 months before. They actually add us into their loan of their additional cash flow that they need. So it's part of their purchase amount, versus the ones that are like, hey, I don't have cash, but I need help. Because every office does this. Literally every single one of them, they're in, and I call it the 6-month shakeout. As soon as you buy a practice, it is bananas for 6 months. Like, you have high costs, you have high expenses, nothing's shaking out. You're trying to win over all these patients or bring in new patients. Like, it's mayhem. And that's actually when you need consulting the most. Like, you need someone to pull your head out of the sand, tell you do step 1, step 2, step 3. This is where you actually need to focus rather than just being psycho and trying to like do all the things but never getting anything done. So I really love when they come. Otherwise, and I'll say, I'm really pro, of course, being a consultant, I'm pro this. I'm really pro hiring a consultant that can actually like put money on your books. So a lot of things people buy when they're buying a startup, they actually don't add revenue for them. And so it's just a lot of cost without a lot of adding to it. And so there's lots of great consultants out there, but I'm really pro find someone who's done what you need to do successfully multiple times and bring them in, because a consultant for us, our fee is guaranteed covered every single month. Like, I'm never worried about that. But we tend to do 2, 3, 4, 5 times our fee, adding that in production and reduction of overhead for a practice very quickly. So I never worry about, I understand the owners do worry about fees because it can feel scary with everything you're adding on. But be intentional with what you're purchasing, of what can add money to your books rather than just taking money off of your books.
Go ahead, Nick.
Well, I was gonna switch gears into talking about building and developing a strong team, since you just mentioned that, and I wanted to start by actually saying that when we're working with a client and they're looking for a relocation option, or they're looking to buy a building, or just a general lease. I mean, these are all super negotiable things inside, inside of their, their business world. But the the highest expense that they likely have is payroll, and so they can't really, that's not something, you're not going to retain high level talent by negotiating like a madman like you would with a landlord, for example. And so I wanted to talk to you about what are key qualities that a dental practice owner should look for when hiring key team members.
For sure. I'm so glad that you said that rented landlords are negotiable, because I think people feel like it's fixed. And I'm like, no, listen, this is why you need Nick and Remy. Like, talk to them. They'll help you negotiate this down. Agreed, teams are a bit trickier to negotiate down. You're not going to probably get the best people. No one wants to feel like they're being bought on sale to come onto your practice. So, but as a landlord, yeah, I want the best deal. My labs and my supplies, I want the best deal. But for teams, so I'm going to kind of give two different answers, because I think startup practices versus maybe a little bit more seasoned in their career actually have two different needs typically. As a startup, I'm really pro them hiring basically an office manager that knows how to do a lot of the things that they don't know how to do. So we need someone who's strong with case acceptance, strong with billing, strong with leadership, strong with hiring, and it's going to be an expensive hire. But what that expensive hire is going to do is going to exponentially grow your practice for you. While dentists are in the back doing dentistry, you have someone who's really your yin to yang in the front office for you. So I'm really pro not hiring just one person, but two people in the front office. I've seen a lot of embezzlement in my time. I've seen a lot of just funny things going on in the front office. And also, if you only have one person up front, you're literally like SOL, which stands for so out of luck. In my opinion, like, you really will be SOL if that one person leaves, because you know nothing in the front office. So I'm super pro hiring those people and hiring really good talent when you're a startup. Now, if you're a little more seasoned, figure out what's going to be your yin and yang. If you've got a good biller, or you can outsource your billing, maybe you don't need as high quality of or as expensive of a hire that way. But what I have found is typically I like to see payroll around 30% of your collections. So if we're collecting 100,000, about 30,000 is going to be spent for payroll costs, not including doctors. And so for that, that's also your fringe benefits, your 401k. And what I've seen with a lot of doctors is team members are only listening to their dollar per hour. But doctors, you're paying a lot more than just $1 per hour. So we've actually created a really beautiful form for our offices that's kind of like their total compensation package that we recommend giving like once or twice a year to your team, so they actually see what they're producing. Now, hygienists are coming in as a really hot topic, depending upon the area you're in. And a lot of those are like, they're kicking that overhead, the payroll amount really high, but you need a hygienist because they're a producer. And so what's happening, we have a couple hygienists on our team as consultants, and what they're recommending is let's have a really good base plus commission, and then looking back at your hygiene schedule to show this hygienist based on what we've already done. I don't like to live in like theories, because no one wants to live in theories. They want to feel confident. So if I can hire a hygienist for X amount that is fair within the market rate, but give them a commission, so anything they produce over that, showing on historical trends of what my practice has been doing, that's going to help me keep my payroll costs lower, but I'm going to be able to pay this hygienist more and be able to actually offset my payroll costs because they're producing more, but I can keep my payroll lower. So that's where I do think you can quote unquote negotiate, but I really feel strongly you've got to show them with confidence that they can do this, and you've got to have an incredible culture. Culture and time tend to be the currency of hiring great team members right now. And so if you don't have a great culture, if you're not a great boss, you're not going to hire great talent. I've seen offices paying their employees less than other people in the market, but they have such a great culture that team members want to stay. And then also looking at this time off, PTO is becoming a really hot topic. And I feel like since 2020, we're seeing more of this lifestyle that people want to be living more so than like the 401k traditional benefits, depending upon the age of the person you're hiring. Because I do think there's two different age groups that want two different things. And so being aware of that and cognitive, I think you can get creative with what you're doing. So I think that's a lot of great ways to bring it on, but you've also got to be clear on what your culture is and what your team is. And you've got to be careful not to hold on to those sour apples that are truly destroying your practice. One of the best quotes I heard is, the worst thing you can do to your best employees is tolerate the poor performance of your worst employee. Mm-hmm. And so really being cognitive, and I know that's hard, but trusting and believing that you can bring these great people in. So we put awesome ads out. I tell people to write to their ideal person, figure out who they want of their ideal person, and then posting those ads consistently and following up can be really good ways to get it. And then like great culture does not mean you give everything to your team. It also means that we hold them accountable, that we have structure, that we have systems in place, but giving them the autonomy within that to create what they want to. I think are some hopefully simple pieces based on where you are of who to hire, how to keep those costs lower, also what a good framework of what your payroll should be, and then also realizing the amount of payroll you've got that should be producing. So make sure that your payroll dollars are actually giving you the production that you should be getting from it. And if not, maybe it's time to make a couple changes that way too.
Yeah, one always is trying to kind of create a culture that promotes accountability and collaboration and continuous improvement. And you can probably, inside the mission statement of the practice, kind of address some of those things so that you have some ground rules. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about the leadership, and it also needs to, live those values as well.
Yeah. And on that, Nick, I am really pro core values. When I first started, I heard a great explanation of core values. And they said, usually when you start a practice, you have 3 core things that really were the core of why you started this practice. So think back to what those are like your true core. And when I thought back, I was like, yeah, for me, it was do the right thing, have a ton of fun, and make it easy for clients. So like those are my 3. So it's do the right thing, fun, and ease. And then we have aspirational ones in addition to that. But really, truly, like our core values go on our job board. So like when we're hiring people, we say, these are our core values. This is our company. Every Wednesday, we're highlighting out team members that have been exhibiting core values within our company. So each team member shouts someone out about the core values. And I really have found that that's how you build culture. Culture is a slow burn, but it's a consistent burn. And so if you have that and you really live, breathe, and bring that in, your culture, it will take a little bit of time. I say it's kind of like moving the Titanic, but the consistency piece will start to shift it to where you have that incredible culture. And then if you have someone who's not, have the one-on-one conversations rather than the full team conversation. Get really, really good at having uncomfortable conversations. I love the quote. I've added my own little sprinkles to it. I say your success and happiness, that's Kira's added, is directly proportional to the number of uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have. And I like adding happiness to it because I think my success is one thing, but my success and my happiness, I want to be happy when I go to work. I want to have a great time. And so just getting really good with those uncomfortable conversations. And I say it's a conversation. It's not a confrontation. And let's get to the root cause. Let's solve the problem rather than the person. And let's move that forward. I think those are some hopeful quick tips for people to start to change that culture, because it can be done, and it's paramount for bringing in great team members as well.
Well, that's a really important piece of the puzzle is communication, especially since everybody has a different communication style. And, I wonder what your guidance is about how somebody who owns a practice can become a better communicator or overcome some of those challenges to be able to kind of understand how to communicate to different members of their staff or what have you.
For sure. I'll give a couple of books. I believe there's so much wisdom found in the minds of men and authors. And so The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni, I think, is a great one to figure out how to build that trust and healthy debate between you and your team members. And so encouraging that and digging down deep into that. Also, there's a lot of personality traits tests that are out there. I really am pro DISC. There's also a company called Culture Index, and I think they teach you a lot of how to communicate. And something I learned early in my career that I try to pass on to our clients is hire people who are complementary to you, not necessarily the same as you. Your biller is going to have a very different personality than your scheduler. I want a bubbly, outgoing scheduler who just makes my patients feel incredible. And my biller, I do not want them being the party scene. I want them to be the person who's so detailed on every single number. Well, those 2 personalities are also going to be different communication styles. My biller, I can probably be a bit more direct with. My scheduler, I might need to have a little more finesse with. The 5 love languages at work is another great way to see how do people prefer to be communicated with. And then also just asking, I think asking people of, hey, some people really want to be direct and just told directly. Other people need like the sandwich, the compliment. Here's what we need to work on, the compliment, because otherwise they're going to feel like they're an utter failure. And so I think as leaders, learning, I used to always communicate the way I like to be communicated to. And I feel like that was so naive on my part, because that's how I prefer does not mean that's how other people prefer. So we have, when we hire new hires, and we recommend this for our offices, we actually have them take a quiz within our practice, and it tells me their favorite things for appreciation. What is it? If I was to get them a gift, what would be something very meaningful to them? How do they prefer to be communicated with? Is it direct? Is it collaborative? And then we have them read the same book, so that way we can speak in the same communication language with each other. And then coming in to when it's an uncomfortable conversation, owning that and saying, hey, like, this is uncomfortable for me to say. We address the root problem, and then we ask for feedback of, hey, Remy, how did that land? I want to make sure that what I was trying to convey is actually how you heard it. Then Remy can come back and say, Kira, I felt like you thought I was a jerk and that I'm not working. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. That's not at all how I was saying it. What did you hear? That way I can change this to make sure we're on the same page. That communication takes finesse, takes time, but I will say I would rather invest in that skill than having the constant turnover train that's going on. And if you're in maybe a bad culture right now and you don't know how to fix it, anonymous surveys, we send them out for a lot of our clients when they're in this particular spot, and start to ask honest feedback of what does this doctor or team need to do to change? What's causing the turnover? What's causing the breaks in the practice from the team member's perspective? And then adjusting our communication styles accordingly to really try and help that communication. But I really love asking for feedback of how that landed. I think that's one of the easiest ways to get that feedback very quickly on communication.
So we've talked a bit about communication, I guess, with your own staff, but paramount to any successful dental practice, they need to have strong communication with their patients, because enhancing a patient experience, I think, really kind of goes hand in hand with, growth and all the other types of things you need to consider to, raise the, do better, I guess, for lack of a better word. So,
yeah, I think patient communication, you're right. It's paramount. And learning, I think that's handoffs. I think that's having everybody speaking the same thing, doctors giving good exams on that. But then also finding out what your patient drivers are, similar to a team driver. What is ultimately their number one objective? Is it cosmetic? Is it function? Is it cost? Or is it longevity? I said those in a very important order. I believe order matters, because if I put cost first, I'm highlighting cost. But if I put these in a very strategic way, I've done this with hundreds of offices, and we've asked thousands of patients. I will tell you 99% of the time it's not cost. It's usually function, it's longevity, cosmetic, how it looks, and then of course figuring out within cost. But if you can figure that out from your patients and learn to communicate with them in their style, utilizing disc profiles as well, you're exactly right, Nick. You'll get higher case acceptance, you'll have a better patient exam. If you have handoffs where everybody's speaking the same language and we're passing the baton off from person to person, so that way nothing gets dropped, you will be shocked. We've increased case acceptance. I had a practice, they were getting about 25 to 30% case acceptance, and we literally got 100% case acceptance that day just by changing a little bit of how we communicate in our handoffs. The patients would walk up to the front and say, doctor wants to see me back in 2 weeks for a crown for an hour. I need to get that scheduled. And if your patient is that clear and your communication's that clear, you can only imagine what that does for your practice and your production and your reviews, because that patient's not confused anymore. They literally know what to do.
Can you share any practical tips on how dental teams can educate their patients more effectively about their oral health and treatment plans?
Yeah. So I'm really pro hygiene. The hygienists have hopefully an hour with them. And so I'm really big on visuals. And so we work with our practices to build kind of like explaining it and helping these patients see, like on x-rays, or you can use, there's a lot of AI softwares out there. I love Pearl. I love Overjet. They can help educate the patients of what's going on in their mouth. And what I found for patients is there's a lot of mistrust. And I know dentists hate this analogy, but it is kind of like a mechanic. And so we're looking under the hood and the patient's like, I see nothing but black and white up on there, but you're telling me to like squint my eyes and there's a little cavity right here. So I think also helping train your patients of like, this is a good tooth and this is a tooth where there is decay, showing intraoral photos for them, helping them so that way when they're going through their teeth, it's like, okay, tell me what you see on this tooth. The more the patient can actually grasp it and understand it, the more they're going to actually accept that treatment. But in addition to that, one of my hygienists that's a consultant on our team, she gave me some really good advice. And she said, never, ever, ever use little league words for major league problems. I think oftentimes we don't want to offend the patient or we want to make it feel better. And so we're like, well, there's this like little cavity. The tooth is bombed out. Like, why are we saying it's a little cavity rather than telling them like, this is what's going on? Now, yes, there's still finesse, so we don't want to make them feel bad about it, but we also need to help them see the severity. And what I found is when you're confident in your diagnosis, when you're confident in how you're presenting treatment, your patients are actually buying your confidence. They're not buying the treatment. And so you being confident, I've helped hundreds of practices. I literally have an office and we've added multiple millions to their 5 locations by simply helping them present treatment better and stronger and more confidently, because truly the patient is buying your confidence. And so now, no, never overdiagnosing, but getting that patient to see it and truly telling them what's going on. And then I always love to say, like, here's a comprehensive exam. And the good news is this is how we're going to get you back to great oral health. And using the good news is, or the great news is, that way the patient feels like there's hope and optimism, and then giving them a really clear plan of where you want them to start. That way it doesn't feel overwhelming or daunting, because you can teach a patient all these things. They just need to know where to start and how you're going to be able to help them get the success that they're looking for and to get back to oral health. Not all patients have it. And I say that not like these problems did not happen overnight. So it's not going to get fixed overnight. Our bodies are always decaying. Like we're always like aging, as fun and thrilling as that is. Same thing with our teeth. And the great news is this is how we're going to get you healthy.
We've talked a bit about communication and creating a strong relationship, I guess, with your patients. Talk to us a little bit about how dental practices can develop a strong presence inside their local community to, build trust and attract more patients.
Yeah. There's an office that I really love. We were just chatting with them, and something that I think this office did so well is they have the goal to be the hometown dentist in their city. That's the vision of their practice. They want all of their patients to feel that way. So it's a very large practice. They have 15 operatories, and they've still been able to maintain that hometown feel, and they're very connected to their community. Another practice, they said that our goal is to change the way people feel about going to the dentist within our community. And so I think the way that you can get this like stamp in your community is, one, having that be part of your vision, where you want to be that local dentist to your patients, where it's that hometown dentist feel in your practice. Then your patient experience will feel that way. But then these offices, the two that I explained, they're very involved in the Chamber of Commerce. They're very involved in the Little League sports. They're very involved in giving back and providing for these communities. I have another dentist, and she created what's called the Thrive Home, where it's literally being able to give back to the community with all the different specialties, like OT, PT, dentistry, to give back within the community. And I really think if that is something that is your MO, treating your patients that way, asking for the referrals and the reviews, and then also being able to have that presence. I know growing up, for me, our chiropractor was so well known. That chiropractor was everywhere. They were at all the football games. They were at all the high school events. They were at the town hall, the Chamber of Commerce. Like, everybody knows that Ellison Chiropractic is the #1 chiropractor in the area. And I will say it's because this family was so involved in the community. We saw them everywhere. And so I think, how can you also do that? And giving back to it. But I think my biggest recommendation, if you want to grow patients based on your community, I think it comes from genuine care and genuine authenticity, that you actually love this community, that you want to give back. If it's just to pull new patients in, there's other ways to do it. But I think really, truly, you want to give back to that community. You want to serve. I think patients will feel that when it's true and genuine and authentic.
We understand how important marketing is to a practice, and how it gets teeth through the door, and it's expensive, and it's money we're spending. But I think you hit the nail on the head. In addition to traditional marketing, there's so much more you can be doing, and involvement really is the key. The more involved you can be in your community, the better. Whether you want that hometown feel or, you're focusing on productivity and efficiency and I think, getting yourself out there and being a part of something is invaluable. So, and that's great advice.
When our clients hire us, it's normally because they feel totally lost. And they're beginning the journey of practice ownership or real estate ownership and they have a lot of student debt. They are about to borrow a lot more money, and it's really scary. And we try to really hold their hand through that process to kind of give them those tools so that they can ultimately make the right decisions for their practice as real estate. And so it's really cool to hear you and how infectious your energy is, and you have really good support systems for your clients to really ensure that that they're not missing anything and are really maximizing their potential. And so it's really cool to hear from you. Switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about the future and industry trends to see if if there are any, if there's anything that you're seeing or anything that that you think your clients are going to face in the next 5 to 10 years that they should be preparing for.
Yeah. And Nick, thank you. I just wanted to highlight what you said because you're right. It's terrifying. It's terrifying to go into that much debt. I remember I used to call my dentist 2.5 because we were 2.5 mil in debt. And I was like, get that back straight because you need to keep these hands and that back good. And I would just always say like 2.5 because we were 2.5 mil in debt. And I think that that's where my passion comes from: profitability, overhead, systems, because I know how daunting it can be to be an incredible clinician, to be an incredible business, to be an amazing practice, but not to have the cash flow to support what you just went into debt for. And so that's really where I'm pro, like, know your numbers, use the systems, utilize your team. Because, and I will say this again and again and again, a dentist who is financially successful and secure is the best boss to have. And I'll tell teams, you want your dentist to be successful and profitable because they're more solid, they're more stable, and they're not stressed out, which is going to make a better boss for you. And so agreed. It's very daunting. It feels very scary, but I will promise you, if you know your numbers, it can feel awful at the beginning, but it can actually make it so much better for you. So thank you for highlighting that, Nick, because I think I've just seen so many students so stressed about cash and staying up at night. I've had it myself. And so speaking from real life experience, giving you the tools out of that dark hole, I think is one of the greatest gifts we can give to these dentists who are already giving the gift of smiles and confidence to all their patients. Being able to do that same for dentists is such an amazing thing. And now speaking of like what's in the future, shoot, DSOs are on the horizon. I think an AI, like these are two hot conversations. My doctors tell me that they are probably getting a DSO offer at least 3 to 4 times a day. And that is ratcheting up. They're getting so many offers constantly from DSOs. They're finding them. And I don't blame them. I think Wall Street is smart. They realize that dentistry is a great business to invest in. I mean, we're hearing 50% overhead. So we've got exponential profit within. Dental practices are profitable, typically speaking. And so I think that these are some things for doctors to be aware of. And I think educating yourself on making sure that you're selling or you're living your life the way you want to, rather than like just getting an offer on a bad day. So I think the DSO offers are dangerous because when you have a bad day in dentistry, it's very easy to look at that EBITDA number and say, I just want to sell. I want to get rid of all my problems, but I want to also caution and advise to know exactly what you're getting into, because I've had some dentists sell. I think DSOs can be great for a lot of practices. I think MSOs can be great. I can see legacy practices and partnerships being great. There's so many amazing things, and I don't think there's really a wrong route to go in dentistry. The wrong route, I think, is when you make an emotional decision that's not going to impact your life the way you want to. And so being very cautious, I think, of when do I want to sell, and also what really is a good deal, because I had a doctor and their EBITDA, they talked to some DSOs and he's like, Kira, it's going to be great. I'm going to get 5 mil for this. And I said, we'll call this one hometown. Like he's not the hometown, but like we'll just call him. I got iPhone Anonymous hometown now. So I was like, hometown. I just want to point out that next year you're going to produce 5 million based on our block scheduling and also on the expansion of your practice that we just did. You are going to produce 5 million, and they did. So I said, you're going to actually get shortchanged on this DSO deal. If you're like, but if you're done with dentistry, it's a great deal. But also you're going to have to work for this person as an associate when you're going to make 5 mil next year, just in producing on your own, and you don't even need to sell. This hometown does not want to be done with dentistry for about 10 years. So I said, you are shortchanging yourself where you can build this, you can exponentially expand into this, but you've got to make the decision of where you want to go and what you want to do. But the 5 million sounded so attractive to this doctor when they didn't realize that their practice was already producing that and would produce that with ease the next year. So I think like being really cautious of that you're not making, I feel like I'm so passionate because I feel like your business not only is providing for your life right now, but it's a long-term asset. And like what you guys do with the real estate, these are long-term assets that are building their wealth portfolios. Let's not do botchy investments, kind of like stocks, right? The stocks we all know just like dropped. Like, shoot, if you're watching that, you're going to freak out and you're going to want to sell everything. But they know be stable through your investments, stay steady, and not make those irrational decisions, I think is so paramount because the DSO offers seem very appealing right now, especially on those like hard dental days. So that's one that I think dentists really need to be cognitive and aware of. And knowing what your end goal is, what your retirement goal is, what you ultimately want to sell out for. So that way, when these offers come through, you can be educated and educating yourself more, because I promise you, I do not believe DSOs are going away. I think in the next decade to 2 decades, we will see dentistry become more similar to healthcare. I know I'm like very hated about this. I've had this opinion for several years. My husband works in standard medicine. He works for hospitals, and I'm like, gosh, like what was going on in the hospital scene is now what we're starting to see in dentistry. It's not going to be too long before they're all bought up, but I'm also watching standardized healthcare now trying to shift into private practices and get out of the DSO, like with air quotes around it. So I think just being cognitive of what you want to do and what you want your legacy to be, but also I don't fault you. I mean, a lot of these dentists are going to be able to get incredible retirements that they may never have been able to get, similar to people buying homes in COVID. Like they're getting insane value, insane interest rates. Like it can be a very wise financial investment deal for you. But just do your homework, because I've seen some DSOs go under and people have lost pretty much their entire retirement. So that would be something I'd definitely highlight on. And then also watching AI. If doctors are not into AI, they've got to get into AI. That's where I mentioned Pearl and Overjet. They're helping with diagnosis. I can already see the writing on the wall that insurance companies, I guarantee you, are probably already using AI. And so making sure that you are staying like at least up to par with insurance companies, if not further ahead. Utilizing virtual assistants. I think staffing costs are going to continue to be skyrocketing. And so for that, what other things can we do? I'm like, opportunities force innovation. And I think we're in an opportunity zone to force some innovation and to be on the cutting edge of that. I do think right now, doctors who are not online, depending upon where you are in your career, if you're not online, having a presence on social media, if you're not getting involved in AI, I am going to caution that I think those practices very easily could get left behind unintentionally, to where it might be hard for them to come back. So just even dabbling in it, getting some team members that could help you with that, I think is super important. And I would say this year, I would add some sort of AI to your practice, whatever you choose to do, just so you start to experience it, use it. There's so many things. And I think honest, in the next 5 years, I think AI is going to radically disrupt how practices are operating, that I think it's important to like at least be dabbling so you're not completely left behind on accident.
You think the AI is, I mean, it's mind-blowing, and the applications just seem endless and hard to keep up with. Are you, if I hear you correctly, you're talking about AI integrations on like the practice management side of things versus patient care, right? Like the patient care. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think patient care is going to be tricky. I think until they get robots who are amazing, I do think like the clinical side of dentistry probably will maintain pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But I do think your front office and a lot of your systems will get changed. And I'll just highlight, there's a practice that we work with, and it's a pediatric practice. She's got
What are we going to call them?
Sorry, what?
What are we going to call them?
Oh, this one, we're going to call this one, we'll just say Jammin'.
Okay.
So this one's Jammin'. I do like that we're naming all my offices differently. All right, so Jammin'. Jammin has a pediatric practice. She's got an entire amazing team, but she has like 8 support virtual assistants behind the scene for this practice. In addition, she has made her own AI bot called Amy. And Amy, that's the actual name of the AI bot. So that one's real. I didn't change. I mean, I should have called it like Joker, but like that's not really going to work. Jammin and Joker. This one's actually called Amy. But Amy responds to this, to Jammin's practices day in and day out to make sure patients are happy. Now, they live in a very affluent area, so it's very fast paced. But what I love about this doctor is she realized in order for me to keep my patients happy and to meet their demands, there's AI and I can create an AI bot that responds exactly how our practice would, but I'm actually not having to pay a team member, an actual human being to do this, and they're able to get all the needs met. That's what I mean by looking to see where can AI integrate. And I think it's going to hit your front office faster, but I think like softwares, man, like that one's tricky. Softwares are tricky to me, but I'm like billing. I guarantee you AI is going to take that over for sure. Hands down, it's going to take it over. I think answering phones and scheduling phones, I think are the way we send out claims for sure. Like that's all within your billing realm. There's some softwares that are trying to act as office managers. I think reading x-rays are going to definitely be taken over by AI, hands down. And I am curious, and I don't have an answer for it, but I'm super curious. How is that going to impact diagnosis? I work with some practices in Canada and Australia, and they're more streamlined. There's not really a lot of change. Like it is what it is. It's standardized healthcare over there. And I'm curious with AI coming in, and I know I'm going to be like, I might get ripped on this. I'm welcoming the reviews because I think it's worthwhile to talk about. I'm curious how AI is going to impact diagnosis, and what can be diagnosed and what can be actually billed out, which leads me to believe similar to medicine. That's why there's they bill out every single possible code that they can. I mean, for the gauze, for the cotton. And I'm super curious and I don't know. I think it's worthwhile to look into. Is that going to impact our diagnosis and how we're billing? Should I maybe be looking and knowing those codes more thoroughly, depending upon how it's going to be? I don't know. I think that that's huge speculation on my part, but I can't help but think that AI is going to impact our diagnosis in a big way. Where insurance companies, which then leads me to think companies might be leaving insurance. So, right, like we might be going more fee for service. So then you got to ramp up your marketing. But I think that's going to be a big spin that's probably going to be hitting us in the next couple of years.
It's scary and exciting. I don't know what else to say. It's scary and exciting.
It feels wild, right? But I'm like, I don't think dentistry itself is going to change much. I still think we're going to have our craft. It's a very, very humanistic, very crafting, but I'm super intrigued. And I think for me, I'd rather take it on as like, let's be excited about it. Let's get into it. Let's see how can we dabble? How can we influence it rather than being told like, this is what's going to happen now. So I would prefer to be a pioneer through it. And I think first office is to innovate. I mean, I prefer to be like second, third, like I'm not going to be like right on the first in case everything botches, but like second, third, get in there because these things, I don't think it's going to go away. I think it will adapt and morph, but I think it's here for a while.
I hate that I didn't ask you this way earlier, but are you working with all different specialties, or are you strictly general?
That's a great question. We actually work with all. So we have pediatric, GP, oral surgery. The only one we don't dabble in is ortho. I think there are some incredible consultants out there that do ortho. Ortho has its own software. It's its own beast. It's its own animal. I do work with ortho and GP, so we're very familiar with it. But ortho, I just think there's consultants that rock the ortho world. But all other specialties, we have clients within all of those and really love them in all their areas. We tend to specialize GP and pediatric, but we have clients of all specialties minus ortho.
Yeah, no, the reason I asked is I was speaking to, an endo group who was actually starting to transition to fee for service. And I don't know, maybe that'd be a good introduction.
Yeah,
anyhow,
the fee for service world is weird. And offices want to cut. They want to just cut the insurance right now. And I'm like, hold please. Before you do that, realize it's a retention piece for your patients. And if you don't have a great experience and you also don't have great systems in place, and you also don't know how to maintain these patients. I had a practice to do this and they almost lost 50% of their entire practice. So I'm really pro, you can drop insurance and I'm not here to say not to, but I want you to be very thorough and educated on it and know worst case scenario, best case scenario, I think fee for service is going to dip in a lot more, but if you're not careful, fee for service patients are free agents, and never forget that. So they can go anywhere at any time. They're not tethered to you like they are with insurance. So making sure before you start cutting and get all excited about fee for service, I'm here to say do it, but do it correctly. Because I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And I've seen it hit practices really hard if they don't do it correctly.
Good to know.
These the time we spend with people like you is meant to help dentists and really and support staff all around. And they all offer different types of great information and feedback. But I have to say, I think you've provided a ton of detailed, thoughtful benchmarks and takeaways that I think will provide great benefit and value, and hopefully, interest people to reach out and get in touch with you, because I think this is a lot of great content that people can use immediately. So at least to start to think about.
Thank you, Remy. I hope it bleeds through the passion that I have. And at the end of the day, I want the best practices to win. I want you to serve patients at the highest level. And so that's why I love to just share. I love to give. I love to educate. And if we're a good fit for you, amazing. I'd love to chat with you about that. But truly, thank you. That was a huge compliment, Remy, and I really appreciate that.
It's our pleasure having you.
Yeah, on that note, we if you have time, we have a few more questions that aren't maybe as practice related, but maybe a little bit more personal. We want to know what is the best advice you've ever received?
Oh gosh, this is I do have time, so thank you. And the best advice I've ever received, gosh, I've had a lot of good advice. I've had a lot of really good mentors. The one that's popping into my mind right now, I think I'll just die with all this. Don't lose money. I think I know that sounds so cliche, but I'm really I remember I was talking to a girl who wanted to start something, and she's like, it's okay if I just break even. And I'm so glad I have this tucked back in my brain of, no, businesses should produce profit. You should be making more than you're making as an associate. I understand it could take a year or two. But don't lose money. Figure out ways to be profitable. Figure out ways to make sure that your business is serving you. Otherwise, go be an associate. And I think that one just has stuck with me for years and years and years, tethered to always provide more value than you ever receive back. Give and serve. That comes from the Go Giver. I'm obsessed with that book. That one's what I started my company on. But always, always, always give more value than you get in return. And I think those two things married together will probably produce and ensure profitability and success for you long term too.
That is a great book. Describe your perfect day.
Are we talking work? Are we talking life?
Just in general.
Life.
Life.
In general, I am a travel junkie. I love to travel. So a perfect day would be hanging out with my husband. We have a great time. I'd be traveling somewhere, so I'd prefer to be at a destination. I love beach. I know I have very fair skin, so the beach does not love me. So between the hours of 10 and 2, I would definitely be taking a nap, so I would avoid the lobster burns. But it'd be beaching. It'd be with family. It would be just hanging out, having a good time. Or it would be I live to be on the water. So my husband and I, we call it Wake Weenie Wednesday. People always giggle because we do a weenie roast on the back of the boat. It's tons of fun. And I just think it's a funny, little play on words on that. But I love to wake surf. Any day on the lake is my best freaking day of my life. And especially when we have friends, it's summertime. You've got that it's dusk and we are roasting hot dogs on the back of the boat, having a good time with friends. That to me is heaven and pure happiness in life. And yes, you can come for Wake Weenie Wednesday if you're out here. It's a great time, and I think everybody should adopt it. It's a good time.
Remy has a favorite question that he seems
I do. Yeah,
Remy,
I was hoping. I try to give it to Nick periodically, but I appreciate that, Nick. Okay, so some responses are pretty straightforward, and others are quite wacky. So if we asked your parents what you do for a living, what might they say?
Oh, my parents would tell you I do dental consulting. They tell you I ran a business for dental consulting. And that's not half as hard as I thought it was going to be. I thought you were going to say, what do you think? What would your parents describe you as a child? And I'm like, please don't ask that, because I was a heathen. That one is full blown. But what I do for work, they would tell you I own a dental consulting business.
That's pretty
We've
good.
actually never had anybody that we've talked to that parents actually really knew. Like my mom, for example, she might just call me right now and 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 then I can't answer, and she'll be like, "Why can't you answer? Like, I don't understand. Like, what do you really do? Like, what do you do that's so important that you can't answer?" and and so, I mean, we get
It's your
we get
mom.
all kinds of things. What if you could
I
go?
do lean on my parents a lot, though. My parents know the days in and out. I'm the second of 7 kids, and I'm very close with both my parents. They live close to me too, so I've been like, Dad, I need you to watch the house. My dad, though, he does think he should be my marketer for our company, and he's like, here, I'll just fly around. I'll get all these clients and go golfing with them. And I'm like, Dad, you will not be like doing any business. You'll just be shooting the breeze with them on the golf course. Like that's all you want. You want me to pay you to go golf in awesome
Yep.
places, but that's what he'd tell you. He's like, and she should hire me is what he would tell you. My mom, on the other hand, she would know I mean, I talk to my mom almost every day. So, they would definitely know.
If you could go back in time and talk to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell her?
Mm, I would tell her that she's freaking killer and not to need this one thing makes me emotional. Not to need the like approval of everybody. I think for a lot of my career, I was doing it to prove to my siblings. I mean, I was the second of 7 kids, so a very successful family. My siblings are all really smart, and I think I'm the only one in my family that doesn't have a master's degree. I'm the only one who owns a business as well. But I think for so much of my life, I was trying to prove my worth to my parents, to my siblings, to my husband, I remember we'll call this Dr. Jerk. That's that person's name. They told me that I would never be anything more than a dental assistant in my life. And so I think for so much of my life, I tried to prove, and I think trying to prove caused so much burnout for me too. Last summer was actually a really hard summer for me, and I felt like the whole weight of the business crushed on me. I loved what I did. I love the passion that I have, but I think trying to make everybody happy, I forgot what made Kira happy. And so it was good. I took a nice 2 month reset. I was wake weaning Wednesday like every single day. So that was a positive. But I realized like I like who I am and I'm incredible of who I am as a person. And I don't need everyone's opinions. And I just saw a thing of like those who talk about you behind your back should stay behind you. And I've thought about that a lot of just just knowing your worth intrinsically rather than needing the external validation. I think I would tell my 20-year-old self because I think it would save her a lot of heartache, a lot of undue stress and pressure, and probably add a lot more sprinkles and happiness in life to listen to that advice.
Kira, thank you so much for opening up and sharing and giving all this great guidance and advice for our mutual clients. This was a lot of fun. I'm super excited to put it out into the world, and thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you for having me. And if there's any way I can serve or support, we have a podcast, the Dental Aid Team. And if we can help anyone, agreed mutual clients, just reach out. We do a free, like a complimentary practice assessment. So like I'll happily go through your practice with you, give you tips, resources. If we're a good fit for you, amazing. If not, it's just amazing free value for you to just help you truly be so successful. So any way I can help you guys, this was truly so fun. Thank you for having me here. I truly, truly enjoyed it and just love what we're both doing for dentistry.
Our pleasure, Kira. Thank you.
Bye.